we're the same. We're the same person. We're just alike. We're the same. And I was just like, what is going on?
Look at me. Look at me.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Roxy with Roxy Says, and we're gonna talk about it. So today we are reviewing episode 1 of Love is Blind season 5. And I must say, I think this is gonna be a good season. I do. I did a cast reveal video, and I'm actually happy to say that I'm pleasantly surprised by a lot of these people so far. Now, I've only seen episode 1 as of this recording. As soon as I'm done editing and uploading this, I'll be watching episodes 2, 3, and 4. I think I'm gonna do that in one video. I'll see. So no spoilers in the comments, okay? If this is your first time here, welcome. And if you are returning, welcome back. But without further ado, let's get into this review. So they do a little preview of the season. We see some bare booty, okay? We see people in the shower. So clearly things are gonna get hot and heavy this season. Nick and Vanessa come in, they grace us with their presence, and they introduce themselves to the men and the women. They let everyone know the rundown of the show. We know, we've been here before. And we get a little bit of people introducing themselves, right? So we get Chris, and he says that people look at him like he's a playboy. And I don't really get playboy from Chris. I'm like, are you sure? Okay, we'll see. Then we see Jared, who's 32 years old. And the first thing that we hear him say is that he's smaller in comparison to all of the other guys. He's skinnier, and women are always telling him how small he is. And Vanessa says, oh my God, they say that to you? And he's like,
No, but I can definitely tell.
Okay. So everyone is off to their dates. And the first major date that we see is Lydia and Milton. So Milton is an engineer and Lydia is a geologist. And they immediately connect because they're both interested in rocks and minerals. And the 17-year-old in me was like, oh my God, get married now. You two are perfect for each other. You both love rocks. Yeah, you two are perfect for each other. But there is a bit of an age gap. Lydia is 30 and he is 24. And if you did see my cast reveal video, in Milton's bio, he says that he does prefer dating older women. So when the age did come up, Lydia was kind of like, ugh. But Milton said, you know, that's not a big deal. I'm doing very well for myself. So we can see that he's given that speech a couple times before to women who are probably a bit older than him and trying to convince them that his age is not a problem. And while he was saying this, I was still like, I think that age difference might be a bit too much. The level of maturity just might be too different. But as we're going to discuss by the end of this episode, Lydia is not that mature. So the next date that we see is Lydia and Izzy, and they both seem to be on the same page as far as kids and wanting to settle down.
Oh my God, Izzy! Oh my God, you're so perfect! When are you gonna propose to me?
And I will say that during this episode, Izzy really surprised me. He gives a very different vibe from the vibe that I got from his bio. I was impressed with Izzy, and we're gonna get a little deeper into that, but he does say that one of his biggest insecurities is his bald head, and I'm like, I don't know why. His bald head is nice. It's nice and smooth. It's even. It's not lumpy. I think Izzy is a little cutie pie with his bald head. The next date we see is Stacy and Izzy. And Izzy is telling Stacy that he's a drummer and he likes playing sports. And Stacy's like, well, I love darts. And Izzy's like, oh, that's great. I like darts too. And they have a cute little conversation. Next, we see Izzy and Johnny. And remember, this is one of the dates that we saw in the preview. So I feel like we're going to see a lot of these two. Either this couple is going to be like a beautiful love story or it's going to be a hot mess. I'm interested to see how it's going to turn out. But in my opinion, the first date went really well between the two. Izzy is telling Johnny that things like mental and emotional stability and intelligence are really important to him. And of course, she loves that. And I found that Izzy was saying that on a lot of his dates, right? He was throwing words out like therapy and emotional intelligence and stability. And while I was watching this, I'm like, I hope that that's really who he is and what he's about. And he's not just throwing things out there because he knows that it sounds good. You know what I'm saying? So Johnny tells Izzy that she's been in a lot of bad relationships and now she's at a point in her life where she's ready to pick the right person. Izzy lets Johnny know that he's been engaged before, and Johnny lets Izzy know that she's actually been married before, and he's the first person that she shared that with. And she felt a little insecure sharing that on her other dates because she doesn't want anyone thinking that, you know, they're her second husband, because that might push them away. And child, on this date, Johnny tells Izzy that she loves him.
I I love you.
And I was like, oh, girl, slow down, baby. Slow down. And in Johnny's confessional, she reveals that her mother actually told her that maybe she's just not meant to be in a relationship, right? After her mom saw her track record, that's what her mom said to her. And I can imagine how hurtful that can be, especially for someone who just wants to be in a loving relationship. But I feel like her mother saying that really shows that Johnny ain't bullshitting when she said that she's been in a lot of bad relationships. So hopefully this experience gives her a better outcome. Next, we see Johnny on a date with Chris, and those two connect on their love of dogs. Johnny says that she has a beagle, and Chris actually fosters dogs on the weekend.
I am in commercial and retail development. I am 30, and I am a lawyer. Oh, shit.
And Johnny goes right into telling Chris that she's had a lot of bad relationships. And I'm like, girl, okay, I understand that this is an expedited process. Y'all only have 4 weeks to get to know each other. It's like this super duper speed dating thing. But at the same time, Johnny, don't go into all your dates talking about how bad all your relationships were. The last thing you want to do is be on a first date and you're there like, listen, all my exes dogged me out. Every relationship I've been in was horrible, okay? So what's your favorite color? Like, no. So the men and women are back to their quarters. I gotta say this. Did you notice that they made sure to show us that spread? They made sure to show us all the food because, as we know, a couple of cast members from previous seasons called out the show for not giving them food, not giving them water, making them work crazy hours and only giving them alcohol, right? So this time they were like, look, we letting them eat this season. Child, they showed the bagels, they showed the bacon, they showed they had eggs on the floor, right? They're like, you see, we gave them food and they dropping the eggs all on the damn floor. They don't even need this food. That's why they put that clip in there. Next, we meet Taylor. She's 25 years old and she's a kindergarten teacher, if I'm not mistaken. And she has a really honest and vulnerable moment and lets us know why she's on this show, why she's optimistic about her experience in finding love on this show this time. She says in the past that she didn't love herself and now she does. So now she feels ready to give and share that love with someone else. And I thought that was so beautiful. I'm like, aw, Taylor, I hope that you find your soulmate. So next we see Taylor on a date with JP, okay? JP is a firefighter. And if you didn't know, in his bio, he said that he be posing for those little firefighter calendars, okay? He be in there. But those two, they hit it off immediately. They have the same view on kids. JP says that he'll cook for her. And he immediately tells her, I'll stop talking to everybody else right now. Like right now, say the word and I'll stop talking to everybody else. And she's like, aw. And you can tell that JP is really into Taylor. When they're on their dates, you see his little toes wiggling, his feet swinging all over the place. And he even tells one of the other guys,
I would propose to her right now. I love that for you, brother.
And I'm like, oh, that is cute. Hopefully Taylor feels the same way. Next, we get this conversation between Miriam and Uche, and this conversation was strange as hell to me for multiple reasons. So Miriam says that she's a scientist, but she works in the Middle East, and then she says she's already moved back to Texas, but she still works in the Middle East, and she does skincare, but she can't really say what kind of skincare it is. Miriam was just very like, I don't know if she was trying to be mysterious because it wasn't giving mysterious. It was giving confusing and like, girl, are you hiding something? That's what it was giving. Are you a spy or something?
I feel like that's very ambiguous.
And then the way that Uche was asking her questions, it didn't seem like a conversation. It was like really rigid and it seemed like an interrogation, like a job interview. I just didn't see it for the two of them. I didn't like that date at all. And in Uche's bio, he did say that he's very blunt and he's very straightforward. So when I saw this date between him and Miriam, I was like, there it is. He's just no fun. Then we see the date with Uche and Aaliyah. And I love this date. The energy between Uche and Aaliyah was night and day between Uche and what's her name? And Miriam, the spy, okay? He was more relaxed. It was a friendly conversation. He gave information about himself as opposed to interrogating Aaliyah. And they really hit it off. And I was like, okay, I'm feeling this couple. Next, we see Izzy and Stacy, and they're hitting it off too. Stacy is definitely not one of my favorites. She didn't like that Enrique burped in the pods and didn't say excuse me. And I get that. That's rude. Say excuse me. But then she had a date with someone else. I can't even remember. I don't know if it was Chris or whatever, but they were talking about kissing, and Stacy said that she's a great kisser, and she makes a joke, and she's like, yeah, ask my hand, like to imply that she makes out with her hand a lot, right? And the guy that she was on the date with says, yeah, ask my pillow. And she was like, ew, you make out with your pillow? And I'm like, girl, you just said that you make out with your hand. I thought aren't y'all joking? Like, girl, okay, I don't know. So far, I don't love Stacy, but for Izzy, Stacy and Johnny are his top 2 picks. So trigger warning, we have a date between Johnny and Chris, okay, and they're speaking about losing their virginity. And Johnny asks Chris how he lost his virginity. And he takes a while to tell this story, so it's like, oh gosh, this must have been really bad. I was thinking either he's still a virgin or something really bad happened. And turns out something really bad is what happened. So he's telling Johnny that he went on a trip with friends to Mexico, and the way that he lost his virginity was through SA. And over the years, he's told everyone that he lost his virginity, to a girl in high school. And it was like, a great regular experience, when in fact, he was assaulted. And he said that he lied about it because there is a stigma of men revealing that something like this happened to them. And that's very true. And a lot of times when men have an experience like this, the way that they frame it is completely different than the way that Chris told his story, right? It'll be framed like, oh yeah, she was older, she was feeling me. And then when you really ask more questions and dig deeper, you kind of have to make them realize like, no, baby, you were SA'd. So I definitely commend Chris for even speaking about that, bringing awareness to the situation. And it really shows how comfortable he felt with Johnny to be able to even tell her that, because that's something that he said he hasn't told anyone. And his date with Johnny actually made him feel comfortable enough to tell her that, and in turn tell the entire world his story. And in all honesty, I'm kind of surprised that they even left that in the episode, because as we know, these shows, they kind of shy away from talking about things like SA, DV. So I'm interested to see if and how that's gonna come up throughout the season. So baby, next we see Izzy on a date with Lydia, okay? And Lydia is like bouncing off the wall. She's like, oh my God, I like Izzy so much, blah, 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 right? And as she's talking, Izzy is like, yeah, like, mm-hmm.
Do you feel the same way?
Uh-huh.
It's so weird because I want to feel you.
Yeah.
You're my number 1.
Ooh, wow, that's flat. Thank you.
And I'm like, you see, Izzy, I knew you were fake. You were talking about emotional intelligence and maturity and all of that shit, but you got this girl pouring her heart out to you and you're not even being real with her. So at this point in the episode, I was looking at Izzy and I was like, you ain't no good. You ain't no good. And I felt like he was leading her on so that he can keep her on his roster in case his 2 main girls turned him down. Because the way that Lydia was going on and on and on, it was very obvious that she was feeling him way more than he was feeling her. And the fact that she couldn't even, I don't know if it's editing or what, but the fact that she couldn't pick up on that, yeah. I was like, Lydia, girl, are you like in La La Land? Because it don't seem like you catching it, sis. But child, we gonna see a lot more on those 2 in a bit. Next, we see Uche and Aaliyah. They're still vibing, connecting. We learn that they both have a love for poetry and spoken word. They both play acoustic guitar. And as I'm watching their date, I'm just smiling. I'm like, this is it. These 2 are it. Next, we see Lydia, and she's just gushing about Izzy. And I swear I had deja vu of Nancy and Bartiste. Like, I was having deja vu. Like, the way Nancy was ignoring the signs that this guy isn't really into you, that's what I was getting from Lydia. So in this scene, we see Izzy and Lydia on a date. Okay. And I commend Izzy for not dragging this out longer than he could have, because he tells Lydia that he has developed stronger connections with some other ladies than he has with her. Now, before we get into Lydia's response, I'm going to read her bio for you really quickly, right? She says, as a geologist, the only rock Lydia isn't familiar with is the one she wants on her finger. After turning 30, Lydia is now emotionally mature enough to be married. And they put that in quotes, okay? and wants to find a tall, dark, and handsome guy with a big personality who feels the same way. But fair warning, she has zero patience for men who can't communicate, as the key to her heart is transparency and emotional maturity. Lydia hopes to take a step closer to her happily ever after by locking down a forever kind of love, not based on looks, but on a commitment to overcoming any obstacle together. Okay, so that's Lydia's bio. Lydia, baby, the way that you responded to what Izzy told you is giving everything but emotional maturity. And I still want to have some grace for Lydia because we are all a work in progress, right? No one is perfect or no one knows how to handle every single situation. But the fact that this man told you that he doesn't have as strong of a connection with you as he has with a couple of other women, and your first response to that is what's missing.
What do you think is missing? Just please tell me why. There has to be a reason.
So immediately you want him to tell you what's wrong with you, right? That's making him have a hard time at building a connection with you. But the fact of the matter is, you guys are all dating, right? Everyone is not going to connect with you the way that you're connecting with them. And that's whether you're in this love is blind situation or everyday life. And the fact that your response to that is automatically trying to find the problem within yourself, that speaks a lot to her self-esteem, right? Because what if Izzy sat there and said, okay, I don't like this, I don't like that, I like this more about another girl, I like that more about another girl. What would she have done? Would she have came to the next date a totally different person? Because when she starts crying, she says, I'm being vulnerable in this experience. I've given the real me, and it's still leaving me clueless. It's still leaving me confused as to why someone doesn't like me, right? So if you know that you've given your true authentic self and someone tells you that they haven't clicked with that, their reason for not connecting with you, to me, it's irrelevant. And if they don't connect with the real you, that's not someone that you want to be with anyway, right? But the way that she reacted to him saying that, I was just like, yeah, Lydia, no, baby, that's not it. And also, I feel like Izzy handled that conversation very well. I feel like he handled it with care. He tells her, look, there's nothing that I can say negative about you. It's just that I have a stronger connection with a couple of other women. And she starts crying and pacing the room and saying, you know, this always happens to her. And I honestly feel like Lydia probably put all of her eggs in the Izzy basket. And because it's not working out, that's probably why she's having this reaction, in addition to having this experience multiple times in the past, as she said. But this scene definitely showed that she's not as emotionally mature as she thinks. And in a later scene, we're gonna see, oh baby, you might just need to take your behind home. Then when she went back to the quarters and she was telling Aaliyah about the conversation, she said he was just like, oh yeah, I have a connection with other people. That is not how he said it, sis. That's not how he said it. She made it seem like he was callous and cold about it when he really wasn't. I didn't like that. Baby. So next we get this conversation between Uche and Aaliyah. Okay, so, you know, they vibing. Uche on the floor, he eating his little Snickers bar. Everything is right in the world. So they're having a conversation and Uche welcomes Aaliyah to be open and honest with him.
The biggest thing is dishonesty.
What is your deal breaker?
And she reveals to him that she cheated on her ex, okay? And he was kind of okay and welcoming to the conversation until she revealed that this happened 2 years ago. She says that the reason why she cheated on him was because she wasn't sexually satisfied, and it's something that she was expressing to him over and over, but he never did anything about it. And Uche says, so why didn't you just break up with him? And she says that the reason why she didn't break up with him was because she didn't want to lose the good things about that relationship, and she didn't want to be alone.
When was this?
2 years ago.
Oh boy, you're a recent cheater.
Not like that, Uche. Don't say that.
It's the truth, isn't it?
And it's interesting to see the way that they both think about it, right? Aaliyah says, that was 2 years ago. That was 2 years ago. And Uche says, that was 2 years ago, right? That was 2 years ago, sis. And Uche is asking some good questions. He also asks her, did you tell your boyfriend? And she says, no, she didn't tell her boyfriend because she didn't want to hurt him. And Uche is like, That's not why you didn't tell him. You didn't tell him because you didn't want to have to own up to what you did, right? And Uche is holding her feet to the fire and she starts agreeing with him and she's like, yeah, you're right. I should have did this. I could have did this. But at the same time, you can tell that she doesn't like the line of questioning. And Uche says that he cheated as well, but he cheated when he was 18 years old. I think he's 30 now. He was 18 years old and the cheating that he did was a kiss, right? So that in comparison to the way that she cheated is a huge deal for him. Aaliyah didn't tell her ex and she stayed with her ex 3 months after she cheated, right? So Uche is sitting there like, hold up. And we can see that he's emotional about it. This is the person who he was going to propose to. So hearing this news, it's really affecting him. But on the other hand, he's going real hard on Aaliyah when it's pretty clear that she already feels really bad about what she did. And while Uche is still speaking to her, she gets up and she leaves the pods. I can understand her saying that was 2 years ago. I'm not that person anymore. I don't like that he's judging me for something that I did in my past, for something that I know I'll never do again. Okay, that's fair.
That was my first and only time ever doing that in a relationship.
In your entire life.
In my entire life.
But at the same time, Uche's not wrong for seeing that as a huge problem. Because had it been reversed and Uche shared some info with her that made her give him the side eye, she would be well within her right to feel the same way. Because that's what we do when we're dating. We're gathering data, right? And thus far, all of the information that he's gathered from you has been good. It's been good. He's receiving it. He's loving it. Now he's getting some data that he doesn't like so much, and he has a right to take a step back given that new data. He's not wrong in that. So we see Uche at his quarters and we see Aaliyah in her quarters. And I have to say, the conversation that Uche was having with JP, oh, I loved it. Uche was really thinking about this whole situation. He wanted to make sure that he's not overreacting, right? JP is asking him, is this something that you think that you can get past? Is this something that you think is worth losing her over, right? I loved the conversation that they were having.
I'm trying to see her perspective, and that's not something I always do. I think I could get past it.
And JP was there also giving him unbiased advice. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, okay, Aaliyah is stressed the hell out. When she left the pods, she's sliding down the wall crying, okay? And then she goes and she has a conversation with crazy ass Lydia. Now, let me tell you something. I've seen many conversations on these shows, right, where someone is comforting another person and you can tell that it's genuine, that it's coming from a place of love, okay? I did not get that at all from this conversation. When I was watching this scene, I felt icky. I felt icky watching this scene. So Lydia is telling Aaliyah that she shouldn't be with a guy who judges her for her past, and Uche has a lot that he needs to work out. And I do agree to some extent with the being judged for your past and things like that, but it still seemed disingenuous. Not once did Lydia give that advice that JP was giving Uche. Not once did Lydia say, well, do you think that maybe you guys can have another conversation about it and see how it goes? No. Lydia was just like, we're the same. We're the same person. We're just alike. We're the same. And I was just like, ew, what is going on?
He's not the one for you. I want to say this. You're so like me that I could see this happening. Look at me. Look at me.
You know what it gave me? It gave me Misery Loves Company. There's no hope for Izzy and I, so that also means there's no hope for you and Uche. I don't know if it was the background music or what, but that scene was creeping me out. It was giving projection. It was giving, if I'm not gonna find love, no one else is gonna find love. Like, I didn't like it at all. And Aaliyah was just nodding. I was yelling at my TV. I'm like, don't listen to her. She's miserable. Because at the men's quarters, Uche is saying that he does want to have a follow-up conversation with Aaliyah. So I'm just hoping that Aaliyah uses her best judgment as opposed to listening to Lydia. Because I do think that this is something that they can definitely get past if they have an honest conversation and Uche is less judgmental because, again, she did not have to share that information with him. And she also has to make sure that this isn't going to be something that he thinks he can hang over her head, right? So if they talk and they decide to move forward, Uche better not be bringing it up over and over again, okay? Lydia is not a friend who's going to give you good advice. She's not. Because she doesn't know how to separate herself and her situation from your situation. I am excited for the next couple of episodes, honey, okay? I think that this season is gonna be a hot mess in a good way. I do feel like we're gonna get some genuine love connections. I really do. So far, I do think that Uche and Aaliyah are gonna make it. I haven't seen the other episodes, so don't tell me yet, but I think that they're gonna make it. I think that Taylor and JP are gonna be together, and Izzy is gonna end up with either Stacy or Johnny. But I did see in some previews he was with a blonde, right? But Johnny's a brunette, so maybe he's gonna pick Stacy. I don't know yet, but we'll see in the later episodes. But we'll see. Make sure you hit like, comment, and subscribe because you know we gotta talk about it below. And make sure that your notifications are on because my next upload will be up very soon. I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye!
Oh my God, we're the same. Oh my God, it's surprising.
Roxy says we're gonna talk